So the reports library is accessed off the reports menu, as you can see there at the bottom, and I'm just going to launch that reports library. Hopefully you can all see my screen. That looks like you can. Alright, now what happens when I come into the reports library is down on the left hand side I see a list of the folders, not unlike what you would get with something like Windows Explorer. I can create these using standard green tree trees, and I can click down through them and view any subfolders that I have. Each one of those subfolders shows me how many items in that folder I haven't read yet. So when you're seeing on the screen there at the bottom that there are 3 unread items in the FY 2017-02 folder, that means they're unread by me, but they may have been read by someone else. As I click on a folder, on the right hand side it displays the contents of that folder. Any reports that I haven't read yet are highlighted in bold, just like your email would be in something like Microsoft Outlook. So I can very quickly see which ones I haven't read yet. The reports are listed by default with the most recent being on the top, but of course with standard Green Tree Clever Table functionality, you're going to be able to sort on those and look at them in whatever sequence you want to look at them. There are also 2 system folders, because if a new report gets added to the system, you don't want to go and hunt for it through the folder structure. So the idea of the notifications folder is it's a place where any new item that's been created, any new report or any new document will appear in the notifications folder, so I can just go there and clear them all out. But in there I'll not only see any new reports or documents that have been created, but I'm also going to get to see any existing report that's in there, but any of those that have had a new comment or a new note added to them. So it provides a very quick way for me to just go through and see what's new since the last time I came in here and viewed things. Then there's also a recently viewed folder which just displays a list of the last 200 items that I have viewed, with things like when it was created, when I last viewed it, and when it was last updated. When I look at the items, I can see, as I said, when it was created, when I last viewed it, where it originated from, and also over on the right hand side whether or not the report has any comments or notes loaded against it. I can click and drag reports between folders. I can click on a report here and click and drag it and put it in another folder if I wanted to. You'll also notice that some of the reports have got pluses against them. Now what the plus means is that there is an older version of that report. When I create a new report in my report library, I can say that it's a new version of an existing report, and that report then becomes superseded. It doesn't get deleted, it just becomes superseded, and the old version is kept as well. And the benefit of us doing that is that any notes that were created against that superseded report are now also optionally visible on the new version of that report. And those reports can be superseded any number of times and then desuperseded if you want. If I want to open a report, I simply double click on the report and up it comes. Now on the left hand side what you're seeing is a PDF view of the report. So on the left hand side I can just use my page up, page down or my mouse and scroll through that PDF and view it. And on the right hand side, and I can create more room here by moving the scroll bar to see more data. On the right hand side is where I can see all of the notes and conversations that are happening about this document. If I wanted to be able to note a new comment, I simply click New Note, enter my note, and hit Save. That new note sits at the top, and it would now have sent out a notification to everybody who has permissions to this report to let them know that there was a new comment loaded. When I receive that notification, I may open the report, click on the note, and add a comment and say whatever it is, and hit Save. And as you can see on the right hand side, all those notes and all those comments are now stored against that report as a central repository. And I hope as I start to talk to you about some of these things, you can start to see the difference between the Green Tree Reports and Documents library and just using something like Windows Explorer as a place to put reports and documents, or circulating those things through email. Because if you circulate it through something like email, it works in a practical sense, but there's no central repository. So if somebody wanted to catch up on where things were up to, they'd have to scroll through multiple emails. This keeps all those comments in one place, but also 3, 4, 6 months later when somebody comes back and opens this report, all those comments are sitting there, right there for them to be able to view. Under Actions, under the Actions tab, everything that happens with this item is captured from the time it's created to any times it's moved or it's moved, drag and drop between folders. Any time a new note is created or the properties are changed or the permissions are changed. But also every time somebody opens this report, we create an action to say that person opened it, from whether it's in Green Tree or whether it's through the browser application. And that's a really important way in which you can keep track of who's viewing reports and who isn't. And it might be you want to supersede a report and you're concerned that people may have viewed the old version. This way you can see exactly who's viewed the report and when. On the Permissions tab, I'm able to see who has permissions to it, and back on the Properties, I can see a list of all the various properties, including being able to expire this item. And I can change the properties. The report will automatically inherit the permissions from the folder into which it was put, but I can override that on a report-by-report basis, either at the time I create it or later on. And again, that's a feature that you can't really get with Windows Explorer easily. Let's look at how easy it is to put an item into the library. In a standard Green Tree report, actually let's use this as a good example. We're now going to open the Customer Balances report, close it down. What's happening here? My mouse is playing up. Okay. So if I want to publish an item into the library, I come into the report and I run the report. And then up here under the Save icon, I click Save, and I can save it now as a PDF into my report library. The report name defaults based on the name of the report. I can tell it whether it expires or not. I can tell it which folder I want to put it into. I can tell it whether or not it's a new version of a report or not. In this case, I'm going to say that it is, and it's a new version of the Customer Balances report. The permissions have defaulted based on the folder I'm putting it into, and then I simply hit Save. We come back to the report library now. I can see that that report has automatically changed. It was run the 2nd of December at 12:45. I've got the old versions of my reports sitting underneath it, and when I double click it, again I can view the report, but you'll also notice that any prior comments that I entered against previous versions of this report are now also displaying against the new version of the report, which if I want to, I can hide. Alright, so hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea on how you publish a report from Green Tree into the Reports library. We can also, by clicking on a folder, right-click and add New Reports, either one by one or multiple. If I choose multiple, I can just come out here and pick multiple reports and put them in by clicking click, click, click. And OK, and that will drag them into the report library. I can also run a financial report. Choose the financial report I want to run it, and then optionally save that into my reports library. Save as a published report, tell it where I want to put it. Now obviously the benefit of all of these things is that when somebody wants to run that report, when somebody wants to see that report, they don't have to go and run it. They don't have to sit there and wait while it runs. They don't have to consume server resources while it runs. When they open it, they're opening the pre-run static report, and it opens instantly. Okay, let's just take a quick look at the document library, and I think many of you who have seen that before will notice there's quite a number of new features in there that have come out over the last 12 months. The document library, which also is accessed off the reports menu, is very similar in concept, so I'm not going to run through this in a huge amount of detail. The difference is that rather than the reports library having one folder structure, under the documents library I get to create multiple libraries. So if I pick my policies and procedures library, I can look at the contents of each folder just like I could with the reports library. I still have the same versioning, so I can see prior versions. I can see when they were created and when I last viewed it. I can double click it and I can see the PDF, and I can also see on the right hand side any notes that have been entered, but likewise all actions are automatically stored. So all very, very similar in concept. But how that integrates to Greentree is fantastic. So if I go into standard Greentree form, and I'm just going to pick a customer, I'm going to call up a customer. Most of you will be aware that if I go into an object, that little paperclip will give me access to create attachments against this object. So previously I just click attach and I would go out and find a document and attach it. Now what I can do on that attachments form is create an attachment on a Greentree object from items in my document library. So by clicking add from library, I get to pick which library I want to attach something from, click down to have a look at the contents of a folder, click on an item and click OK. And as you can see, what's happened is it's created an attachment to this object. It hasn't copied the item in here, it's simply created an attachment which is a link to the item in the document library, so that if the item in the document library is superseded, then whoever accesses this attachment will now be seeing the latest version of that. But also beneficially, if I come in and have a look at an item, I can click on it and have a look at what that's attached to. So I've got that two-way thing. And obviously this way, one document can be linked to multiple objects in the database. Right. Now, let's have a quick look at what that looks like through the browser. To have a look at that, we're going to look at this version of the screen, and now we're here in the Greentree 4 browser experience. Down here somewhere I should see reports and documents. Let's bring that up. Likewise, I see the number of unread items on the badge, and if I tap on it, it opens it up. So very much like the Windows experience, I'm seeing the folders down on the left-hand side, and as I tap on a folder, I get to see the contents of that folder. If I want to view a report, I click on the folder, I tap that, and I click download. So version 1 of the report and document library in the browser enables me to browse the items and open the PDF and view it, but at this stage we're not able to view and create the notes and threads and the actions, but that's intended to come in a future version of the product. And likewise, I can go into the library in the same way, pick which library I want to view, and click on the folders and view the contents of that folder. So that's superb for people that are out on the road who want to be able to have access to company documents or reports. They can access it through their laptop or their tablet, but likewise customers or suppliers or other external people can be created as users of the report and document library, enabling you to provide them browser access to pull down documents like that. So there's a lot, as I said before, that's happened in this over the last 12 months, including the addition of the functionality into the browser. So if you're interested in any more details, then contact Penny or your consultant to get some more details.